would first like to bring up Jessica from the Idea Garden, just to welcome you, and then we'll get started.
Yes, I welcome. So glad to see everyone here. My partner Matt and I, Matt's in the back, have just opened this space at the beginning of February, and our intention with this space is both to show art and have meetings and events and workshops and things like this for the community. So if you know of something or there's something that you'd like to do, please come find one of us after, and we're happy to talk to you about it. And we also have a list in the back if you'd like to get our newsletter about once a month about the upcoming events. We have something on Saturday, we have an art opening for this new show we're in the middle of hanging. And next Friday, we have an event on composting. And later in the month, we have an artist panel where they're talking about their process to create the work and the connection with mental health. So that's what's going on. If you want to stay up to date on what's going on, please sign up for our newsletter. And if you are interested in doing something here, please come and find one of us now or later, and we're happy to talk to you about it. Welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Okay, so my name's Rebecca Martin. I'm from KingstonCitizens.org. This afternoon, I also have Sebastian here, who is translating for us today. If there's anybody here who speaks Spanish as a first language here, we do have assistance. Doesn't look like we have that here, but I would like for you to introduce yourself with me as I'm speaking, so that people know. We're streaming live right now. If you go to the Kingston News, you can stream with us now. It's facebook.com/thekingstonnews / and you can stream this now live and ask questions if you'd like in the comment section of the Facebook post. So the Community Development Block Grant Consolidated Strategy Plan is a 5-year plan, and we wanted to try to bring the public together around the strategic plan in time for the public comment period closing, which was to occur on Sunday the 5th, but the mayor has granted the process 10 additional days, which is really helpful. So the process essentially will be that the public can submit their comments, and you'll see on your agenda here this evening on the back side is an area where, if you'd like, you can submit your own comments to Brenna Robinson, who's the Director of Economic and Community Development in the City of Kingston. However, we will be taking comments tonight and compiling them in a single document in the case that you'd like to just be a part of a collaborative document to submit to the city. We are going to be working on, we're going to be going through 200 pages of this document over the last week. We've taken some time to highlight some areas, to have some discussion. We have some very special guests here this evening to help us in our work that I just would like to acknowledge. First of all, Tanya Garment, who really inspired this event this evening, and she's going to be assisting, taking your comments and this evening. Thank you, Tanya. Jessica Meyer from the Idea Garden, thank you for hosting us. Sebastian, who is here this evening, who's a City of Kingston resident, to assist with translation. We have Jennifer Schwartz-Berkey, who's here this evening, urban planner and City of Kingston resident. Guy Kemp is here from RUCCO. Thank you, Guy, for being here. We have Ted Grease from the Kingston Land Trust. Ted, thank you for being here. We, by the way, this event is being co-sponsored by the Kingston Land Trust and the Kingston Tenants Union this evening, so I expect Rashida to be here shortly. Clark Richters is here. He's filming this evening. Thank you, Clark. We're streaming and also documenting the meeting so you can watch it later. We have elected officials here this evening. We have Jeffrey Morrell from Ward 1. We have Rita Worthington from Ward 4. Both of them sit on the Community Development Advisory Committee. Or is it a board?
It's a board.
It's a board. this evening. So let's get underway. Sebastian, could you say hello to the streamers and to ask to submit comments if they'd like, and we'll be checking in.
Pues bienvenidos al taller de desarrollo de comentario, y si tienen preguntas, cuestiones, comentarios, lo que se puede hacer es a través del sitio de Facebook, escribirlos y los puedo traducir si gustan. Gracias por atender y estoy aquí por cualquier cosa.
Thank you. Good. And also Brenda Robinson is here with us tonight, who's the Director of Economic Development and Community Development. Thank you for being here, Brenda.
Sure, thanks.
And if we could just take a minute, just to go around and so you can introduce yourself and where you are in the city, it would be terrific.
I'm Brian Blass. I live on 54 Windermere Avenue in Kingston, and I'm a pro-rail supporter.
Thank you. Oh, you can explain.
Hello everyone, my name is Ethan Scott Barnett. I live on Lucas Avenue right next to Forsyth, and I am the mayoral candidate for the Kingston People's Party.
Thank you for being here. Sebastian?
My name's Sebastian Solitary. I live on Pembroke and Downs.
Hi, I'm Jessica Meyer. I live on Warren Street here in Kingston.
I'm Ted Greasy. I work for the Kingston Land Trust, and I live on Lafayette Avenue in Ward 1.
Hi, my name is Rich Sheffo. I live on 4th Avenue in Ward 8.
We continue along the wall. My name's Guy Kemp, and I'm not a resident of Kingston. I'm an employee of REPCO, Vice President of Community Development, and I get to come to the city and work here very often.
Hi, I'm Giovanna Regini, and I live on Fair Street in Uptown Kingston.
Hi, I'm Evelyn Wright. I live just up the hill here on Westchester.
I'm Matt Taylor, and I live on Warren Street.
I'm Kevin McAvoy. You live. I live at 254 Delaware Avenue, also known as the Moses Hellman's house.
Neil Millens, I live on Pincocky Street in Pincocky, and if you can spell that, I'll buy a jerk. No, I'm kidding.
Spell it.
There you go.
Oh, hi, I'm Brenda Robinson. I'm the Director of Economic and Community Development for the City of Kingston, and our office has the honor of managing this process and our CDBG program.
Clark?
Clark Richter from the Kingston News.
Tanya? Tanya?
Oh, Tanya Garment. I live in Rondout.
I'm Jennifer. I'm an urban planner.
Vince
I
Rue.
live in downtown Kingston.
Vince Rue. I live on West Chestnut Street, just up the hill, and I grew up in this neighborhood. And I'm a local businessman.
Jeffrey Ventura Moreno. I live on Uptown on Main Street, and I'm the alderman for Ward 1.
Rita Worthington, I live in Midtown Kingston, I'm still the woman for Ward 4.
Lee Bryan, I live in Miranda, Ward 9.
Great, thank you. Before I venture out back, I just want to say there's coffee, tea, there's snacks in the front here, and the bathrooms
Right here.
are right here.
It's right here. Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's begin. So I think the way we're going to approach this, and I'm open to ideas for everybody to popcorn round here and jump in as they wish to, is to just start from the top and to bring everybody together on the document and to discuss things as they come up. What I would like to do first, however, is to share with you the City of Kingston's press release on the plan, just so that we all are on the same page here. So the City of Kingston has made available for public review and comment the proposed 2019-2023 5-year consolidated plan, which includes a fair housing plan with a designated Midtown neighborhood revitalization strategy area. These documents have been prepared as part of the Community Development Block Grant Program. etc. So I'm wondering if everyone has had a chance to see the city's press release. And the one thing that I'd like to point out, and Brenna, if you don't mind, could you share with us the new time period for the public comment, and as well as the process for public comments and then following public comments?
Sure. So the mayor has extended the public comment period to May 15th. So there's an additional 10 days. He felt it was important to collect this input and any additional input that comes from this meeting as well. So we can stay on our original timeline even with that 10-day extension because the mayor is allowed to send a late communication to council, whereas I'm not. He can still communicate this information to council in time to get the comments included, the draft submitted to the council to then be sent to the Community Development Committee in May and then voted on in June, and we can still submit it to HUD on our original timeline.
The Community Development Committee, there's a
Common Council Community Development Committee.
Okay.
It's not just the Community Development Advisory Board. They are members of the advisory board, but they are also a standalone Common Council Committee.
Great. How often do they meet?
Monthly.
Monthly, okay.
Mostly. There are months where we don't have business to attend to, so it's not 12 months, but it's 9 to 10 months a year.
Great.
Which members of the Common Council are on that committee?
Jeffrey, Morel Ventura Morel, Rita Worthington, Bill Carey, Tony Davis is chair. How many is that?
And Andrea.
And Andrea Shaw.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. So that's wonderful that we have extra time to work on this following tonight's event. So let's begin with the document. I was imagining that the strategic plan is probably the best place to begin. I know that there are 2 documents. We also have the Fair Housing Plan that's listed, and the executive summary, which is actually also incorporated into the Fair Housing Plan. So let's begin. It's now 6:18, so we'll work for about 40 minutes, and then we'll take a break. Hi, Tony. Great.
I heard his name when he walks in.
Tony Davis is here, who's the alderman from Ward 6 and sits on the board. Tony, if you'd like, there's coffee and tea up here.
I'm good, thank
Make
you.
yourself comfortable. Okay, great.
Just started.
Okay, so the significance here is that, maybe some people don't know, is that this is a 5-year plan. So getting in now is a good idea, because we won't have another chance to do something like this for 5 years. However, there's a yearly update. Is that correct?
Correct. This is like the 10,000 foot view of how we're going to, what our strategies and priorities and goals are for 5 years. And then each year we have to collect public input and decide how we're going to spend every dollar of our annual allocation, meeting the goals and strategies and priorities that are in this 5-year plan.
Okay. And during that time period, how much time is there? What is the public process for the yearly?
We usually make the so the applications are sort of the impetus for developing the annual plan. We see what the community wants to see funded. Our annual allocation, 70% of our annual allocation has to be spent to benefit low to moderate income residents of the city of Kingston. So we accept applications, and that's the initial, who is benefiting from this project, and then does it meet, which strategies and goals and priorities does it meet in this 5-year plan. And so we open the application process usually the end of October, beginning of November. They're usually due sometime in January. And then the advisory board looks at the staff makes sure that the applications are eligible. The advisory board looks at the applications and comes up with recommendations for funding based on what our allocation is or an estimated amount.
Based on these categories?
Correct.
Okay.
So we first determine if the projects are benefiting the appropriate beneficiaries, and then we determine to what extent they're benefiting those residents of the city, and then we see how they're meeting those goals and priorities.
Great. And the goals and priorities are the following. They're affordable housing assistance, housing rehabilitation and accessibility improvements to housing units, reduction of slum blight conditions in targeted neighborhoods, youth and community public service programs, business facade and sidewalk improvements, economic development programs, public facilities and infrastructure, community policing and public safety initiatives, parks and recreation improvements, and lead hazard prevention and improvements.
I'm sorry to interrupt,
Not
Rebecca. You
at all.
asked about the public input process, or how much, what opportunities for public input there are. So from the time the applications open in late October, early November, to the deadline for applications, we hold at least 6 or 7 public informational sessions all over the city, at the Roundup Neighborhood Center, at the Maritime Museum, at the Hodge, at City Hall, all over the place. And at those sessions, we talk about the 5-year plan and how public comments are accepted and requested throughout the year, even if it's not a 5-year consolidated plan development year. And we also collect input on the annual action plan. So at all of those meetings, those are all publicly noticed, advertised. We are, at each of those meetings, I do an overview of the plan itself, and encourage people to stop into the office and talk with us as well.
And it's to help the public understand, I mean, you're looking for applications based on your goals.
Correct.
So when you go around the city, you're explaining what the CDGB is.
Correct.
And how organizations, et cetera, would apply.
Correct.
And it's not-for-profits. Who would apply?
It's mainly not-for-profits. It can be for like micro enterprises, small businesses that are either owned by low to moderate income residents of the city or majority employ low mod residents of the city.
Okay.
And we're an entitlement community. We don't have to apply to HUD for our funding. We get an automatic allocation that is a formula, some equation in the federal government budget, the federal budget that allocates to cities like us, large and small, based on our need.
So it gives the city the authority to make decisions.
Correct. And we could just spend this on city projects. It doesn't have to be sub-granted to nonprofits in the city, but it helps support the programs and services offered to the low mod residents of the city that the city government itself cannot provide to them.
Okay, great. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay. Let's start at the executive summary. So I'm going to just slowly go page by page, and we can, I've highlighted some things that have come up for discussion. So the executive summary obviously is the overview of what the strategic plan is, and I'm hoping, has anybody had a chance to read the plan in advance? Great. So I'm going to move through sections like this, unless there's something that you would like to stop. If you could just raise your hand and we can just read it over together. Okay? So our introduction, summary of the objectives and outcomes identified in the plan needs assessment overview, which Brenda just discussed a little bit about, an evaluation of past performance, summary of citizen participation process and consultation process, and summary of public comments. This is where our public comments will be implemented into the plan.
Correct.
Your public comments will be implemented into the plan. And as a reminder, on the back of your agenda is an area you can craft your own comments, or we are happy to, we're sitting back here waiting to type away, okay?
If I could just quickly, I'm sorry, so that will be a summary, but later in the plan, there's a table of all of the comments.
Okay.
So specifically what comments were received, and this is just a brief summary of that
what
table.
it is. So will the summary just give an overview of what everybody said?
Pretty much,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, great. Jenny, did you have a question?
Yeah, will there be some kind of response to questions, if the comments raise questions that need to be answered?
Yeah, so the comments will be collected. They will be reviewed by staff, Common Council, Community Development Committee, the mayor, and our consultant, and be incorporated into the plan based on our experience and knowledge of the program and what HUD is looking for. Like I said, all of the comments will be listed in that table format. Whether they're incorporated into the narrative fully will be determined by that team
Of people. And then HUD receives the draft and approves or sends back to ask for more?
Correct.
Okay, information. Rich?
I had a similar question, whether it would be a response summary, but based on your description, it doesn't sound like a specific response summary. Like if there's a comment and you decided not to include it, you don't respond as to why that is not.
Yes, we would
you
have,
just-
in that
okay.
table format,
You
it
would-
asks,
okay.
what comments were received. If comments were not accepted, why?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Actually, more of a point than maybe a question, but I'm wondering if you could speak to the extent to which the plan here in Kingston conforms to national guidelines and priorities from the federal government.
Of course, so we have to meet national objectives. We have to make sure that the recipients that we're funding are funding their eligible projects. They're meeting not just our goals in the plan, but those goals are meeting national objectives through HUD rules and regulations. Did that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, could you share from the 5 years ago what sort of projects were approved?
Over the last 5 years, we have funded organizations like Family of Woodstock to support activities at the Hodge Center, Boys and Girls Club programs, music programs, education programs, Center for Creative Education, career and technical, and obviously music and dance training. We've done public facilities improvements, the floor and the mats and the roof at the Boys and Girls Club, the roof at People's Place, and heating and cooling systems at People's Place.
How would people find that information? Is there a place online that people could find past projects?
You can contact my office. We could, if that's something that you'd like to see, we could post them online. But there's an annual process, and it's advertised beforehand.
Right.
There are public meetings for all of the applicants, so you can see who's applying. And
So for projects, people can just reach out to you to learn more about past projects.
Sure, but then also every project that is finally funded is also advertised in the Freeman.
Yep.
But are there copies of those, I guess, comments or proposals, so when somebody submitted? Are they stored someplace online, so that way you could see, wow, they wrote it this way, so now we know to emulate how they submitted?
We don't post the applications themselves. Okay. It's a lot of paper, it's a lot of information. But I mean, if there's one or more projects that you'd like to come take a look at, sure, you can come and look at the applications.
Great.
Yeah, so if you're writing an application for an organization,
It's good to have a good template to
Absolutely.
work from, to know if we're successful.
Yeah, you can always come to the office and look at them, or we can make copies or send them to you by email.
Okay. One thing I just realized is that we do have some highlights here in the executive summary. So one of the things that has been pulled out here is, and I think sometimes these things repeat themselves throughout the document. So I'm sorry, I'm going to go back just for a minute because I realized I had the wrong version open. So under a summary of objectives and outcomes identified in the needs assessment overview, one of the things that was highlighted was foster a positive business climate in Kingston and promote the city as a desirable place to live and to visit. And I think that this was a question, and I think that we were able to frame the question. If I can just see. I think the question was how we were able to okay, we do have the question there, just how we're able to what the matrix was for understanding how we were reaching whatever it is, the threshold of fostering the business climate. And that's a question that we actually captured for you
Okay.
for later. It's, the other was reduction of slum blight conditions in targeted neighborhoods. I think there was some concern about the language. Tanya, do you want to speak a little bit about that in terms of what kind of questions had come up about the language of slum and blight?
Well, I think that it's just not clear what would constitute a slum or a blight condition, and what really the goal of changing that condition would be specifically. What would the hoped for outcome be? Would it be for inviting? Would it attach to the goal of inviting more business in, or would it attach to raising property values? But more importantly, I think that there's the concern about what exactly would constitute a slum or blight condition, because it does harken back to slum clearance of urban renewal. If you don't understand it, maybe there's more to understand to it.
There is more to understand to it, and 2 points to your comment about some parts being repetitive and the question about this. So these are HUD definitions and terms, and so when you see this document as like a PDF or a Word document, but when we're inputting this information into the HUD database where we submit this information to create this plan, it's very partitioned, and the same people don't review each of these things, and some of these numbered things and bulleted things are actually boxes that we click on. They're not our words. So you'll see.
Are things like that set in stone, in other words?
Yes.
They are, okay.
Many.
Okay.
Some things we can change, but some things like the repetitiveness and the.
Well, that's okay, it just means that if it were to change, it has to change in several.
In both sides, in both places, or all of the places.
So these two lists, this one and the bullet list above, are both from HUD lists that the city has selected some things from?
So I would have to go into IDIS, into the database to look, but I am pretty comfortable saying these numbers 1 through 9 are HUD like selections, but the bullets above it are our language.
Okay.
The bullets above it are the city's language.
Correct.
Okay, great.
Just curious, of those 9 there, how many approximately were there to choose from? Like, were there ones that HUD put out that we decided not to take?
I think so, but I don't remember there.
Yeah. One of my questions was, just while we're on the subject of things that are found on that list, one was the question, I don't know whether it's on their list, of the housing pressure related to things like gentrification or short-term rentals, because I didn't see it noted anywhere in either of the reports, and I was wondering if that's something that's discussed in either of these
I believe there is a discussion about gentrification and the need for more housing units and the problems that it's causing. I don't remember exactly what page it's on, but I believe there is.
Okay,
Jenny, what
so
was
it's
the
not a
question?
category?
It's but no, it would have to do with creating a suitable living environment
Displacement, basically.
or
The issue of displacement?
yeah.
It's not a
It would
category
be
there.
housing rehab and accessibility to improvements to housing, something like that. It would be in the narrative under that category somewhere.
Okay, under 2.
Did you call it housing pressure, Jenny?
Yeah, I mean, whatever the term is, I think the question was, if these are their definitions, where does that discussion fall? That's all I wanted to know.
Okay. Is that a question you'd like us to document?
Yeah, I think
I
once
would.
we go through it,
Yeah.
if we feel like displacement needs to be discussed further, we can talk about it. But I think it's a very big issue here.
Okay, great. So I'll continue under the executive summary.
summary of participation process and consultation process, summary of public comments, summary of comments or views not accepted and the reasons for not accepting them. And we begin to the process. So we're gonna, what we have here is a description of the lead and responsible agencies, and the narrative. This is terrible, pardon me. We have our introduction. Provide a concise summary of the jurisdiction's activities to enhance coordination between public and assisted housing providers and private and government health, mental health, and service agencies. Describe coordination with the continuum of care and efforts to address the needs of homeless persons, particularly chronically homeless individuals and families, families with children, veterans, and unaccompanied youth, and persons at risk of homelessness. Jenny?
Just a quick question. Throughout the document, there's references to Consortium of Care.
Yeah,
and
I just
Continuum of
circled
Care.
that. It should all be continuum of care.
Okay.
Are people here familiar with,
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I
yeah.
know you are, I'm wondering if everybody in
Would
the
you-
room is,
No.
no, actually, I think it's Brenna's probably.
So,
about that.
the county has what's called the Continuum of Care. It is a consortium of organizations that provide support and services to the homeless and housing insecure population of the county. The city holds a seat on that board, and the organizations include People Inc., Family of Woodstock, DSS, Soldier On, all of the organizations that provide supports to the homeless community. And RUPCO is the collaborative applicant. What that means is Kathy Germain at RUPCO is the staff member who facilitates and writes and ensures that we meet all of the criteria to submit an application to HUD, which then attracts over $1 million to help fund these agencies to support the homeless in the county. Is that?
Yeah, that's exactly correct. The only thing I would add to that is that this has been a long-standing effort by the county to address housing and related issues. And RUPCO's been the administrator and in fact the applicant. We've administered that program for many years. And I had hoped Kathy would join me tonight. She ended up being quarantined by her doc, so she's not here.
I was with her last night. Oh no.
I'm sorry to report.
Best way to
There's a
find
hospital
out.
just down the, no, I'm kidding. I don't believe she's contagious, but he advised that she stay out of the line of fire for some number of
Is
days.
it measles issues?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, 'cause I was going to get away from you.
Never mind. By the way, I didn't mean to talk about any of her private health concerns. I just wanted to share that she had hoped to be here, and I invited her to be here to talk to that, and she could do so much better than I could. But anyway,
So
that's
the
story.
fact that we are an entitlement community and we use our funding to support programs and services that also support homeless and at-risk residents of the city supports the Continuum of Care's application to HUD and vice versa. That we have a seat on the board and that the city's interests are so it's a collaborative.
That's a best practice because it shares data among the principal entities involved with addressing and alleviating those issues.
And that's just one more, you said it, but I want to clarify, the county organizes.
It's a county organization, the city holds a seat on the board.
Great, okay. Did I hear a question?
Yeah, I'm just curious, is $1 million the max that you can request, or can you request more?
No, it's a highly competitive national grant opportunity, and we're lucky to get $1 million. The board and Kathy and staff work really hard and really well, and we've gotten more recently because of that focus and developing a strategic plan, and you know, it's a good thing.
Does the amount change every year? Because for a while it was a set amount.
For the continuum or for CDBG?
I'm sorry, for the CDGB.
No, it's
grant.
never been a set amount. It's a pot in the federal government that they wave some function wand over, and it spits out formula allocations to communities that are entitlements.
Right.
So it's not ever been the same. At one point, it was a little over $1 million. For a while, it was in the 900,000s, and it has dropped
Decreased, right.
every year since then, until last year. We went down to 600 and change, 680 something. Last year we got 759, and this year we're getting 737 and
Wow.
change.
Okay,
So it fluctuates.
okay.
I want to just make a comment that I noticed another, one of those kind of typo things. It refers to an entity that is Rural Ulster Preservation Company.
Oh, we
Yeah.
did get that comment. That might be in this red line.
Is it?
I'm looking at a red line version.
It
So.
just, we changed our name to Rupco Inc. We are no longer Rural Ulster Preservation.
Do you remember where that was?
That's just a
It's
structural
eliminated
change.
if they don't operate
I
just
can
in
look
Ulster
it up.
County.
Yeah, it's not even a DBA. We are Rupco
Rupco.
Inc., which is what you all call us anyway, but
We took it down.
thank you.
So here we're describing agencies, groups, organizations, and others who participated in the process, and describe the jurisdictions, consultations with housing, social service agencies, and other entities. So we have RUPCO, we have Family of Woodstock. This is so wonky. We have the City of Kingston, Building and Safety, Ulster County Office of Employment and Training. We had some of those smaller. Oh my God.
I'm glad you're back, it's
The heart is jumping off the wall.
And what's in here, we have the agencies, groups, and some good information on how they were consulted, and the outcomes for improved coordination. We have Resource Center for Independent Living. We have Ulster County Office for Aging, City of Kingston's Planning Department, City of Kingston Arts Advisory Board, the Gateway Communities Industry, City of Kingston Office of Engineering, Bailey Pottery, Kingston LDC, Economic Development, R&F Paints, O Positive, SUNY Ulster, Ulster BOCES, SUNY New Paltz, City of Kingston Parks and Rec. And Brenda, these are the agencies that have applied for grants?
No,
No.
these are agencies that can provide expertise and identify need, and I don't think any of them on that list are applicants, but the applicants are engaged as well.
Okay. Jenny?
So I was just wondering, Ulster County Planning prepares a rental housing survey every year. And I was just wondering if that was consulted and if they were consulted.
I think they were on the list to be consulted. If they're not listed here, maybe we didn't get a response yet.
Well,
But
they are absolutely included in the consortium.
They're the consortium, but I don't know if they're included, if there's data are included in terms of the vacancy rates and the kind of information
I
that
know that the
is very
consultant
valuable.
dug for a lot of data, but I can verify for sure.
Because I think it's like around 1% or something incredibly low right now, and I think that data would be very valuable to
So
share,
if I can just make
share
a
with HUD. And,
comment on the data.
okay.
We can put that into the narrative, but as far as data points, comparisons that are going to make, we have to use HUD data and or census data.
Right.
We can't use local data because they need to have it correlate with their reporting nationally. So, we can put that into the narrative so they know that we're looking at it, but as far as actual data in the plan that HUD will accept, it has to be their own. So they can compare apples to apples nationwide.
Although they don't do any analysis of local vacancy
No,
rates.
they don't.
Right.
They don't. They depend on census data for that.
Kingston Land Trust?
So it would actually help you if individuals were to provide comments around that.
It
If
would help
could
us
be
locally.
content.
It's honestly, HUD is not going to use that. It would help to let them know that we're looking at it, but they're not going to use that in their funding decisions or reporting nationally.
So next, identify any agency types not consulted and provide rationale for not consulting.
What a wacky question.
Welcome to HUD.
We left you out.
Give us a list of
And this is why we don't like you.
Right, and we have a list of those. So, right now it's 6:45, and I had suggested we take 15-minute breaks, but I'm going to ask to press on and invite you, if you have to get up and go to the bathroom, please do. There's coffee, there's tea and snacks. I invite you to get up at any point. You can also, if you're in the front and don't want to walk all the way back, there's an exit to the left. Go through the door to the left, you'll go up to the kitchen and come around, okay? Is everybody okay with that? So more organizations listed here. Next, describe cooperation and coordination with other public entities, including the state and any adjacent units of general or local government in the implementation of the consolidated plan. So we have New York State, federal government.
Can we correct something here?
Sure.
The Division of Housing and Community Renewal is no longer called the Division of Housing and Community Renewal. It's now called
Homes and community
Homes
renewal.
and Community Renewal, and it's not called the division anymore.
Yes, right.
And that certainly is a change since the last 5-year plan.
Right. It's been that since 2016.
Yeah,
Great, thank you, Guy.
sure.
Citizen participation, my favorite. Summary of citizen participation process, efforts made to broaden citizen participation, summarize citizen participation process, and how it impacted goal setting. And we have a list of these. This is really interesting, I think, and important to read.
So does not applicable mean that people did not give comments?
Summary of comments not accepted in reason. So there were no comments that were not accepted.
So this, in other words, the
Like a
summary of
double
comments
negative.
not accepted is not applicable.
Yeah.
Welcome to HUD.
Yeah.
HUD forms.
Well, it's all making a lot more sense now that we know it's a HUD,
Yeah.
oddly enough.
Sorry, I'm just looking at something.
So if someone found this in a time capsule and they read the introduction, would they understand that you're forced by the
No.
introduction to?
To fill out these forms and have it spit out
Yeah.
like it looks like you wrote it, no.
Right.
So
So I think we should include the Secretary of HUD in the time capsule for future reference. That would be an excellent.
Second that motion.
So can I ask when the city's deadline is to submit for the grant? I know the deadline is the 5th for comment.
It's been extended.
It's been
You're
extended.
extended
Okay, oh,
to
wow,
the
awesome.
15th. There's a press release out, so you should see that tomorrow somewhere.
We got 10 more days. Yeah,
So
that's good.
we're taking comments to the 15th. It'll go to the Common Council Community Development Committee at the end of May, and then be voted on by the full council in June, and we'll submit it to HUD shortly thereafter.
Okay.
Brenda, one thing before I move on from public outreach, is there, who determines the outreach? Like how to target communities? How is that done?
We put our heads together and make a list of any possible stakeholders. We reach out to them, and if they respond, they're included. If they don't respond, we reach out to them again. We make a phone call. If they still don't respond, then we move forward.
Maybe a good question is if outreach is not really, if we're reaching just the same people, we're not growing our base.
No.
Is there a way to work to
So I think this year we've done better than we ever have.
Good. So every year
there's a
you're doing.
list that the consultant can provide us of everybody that we have reached out to, and you will see who responded by
Great.
what's in here.
Okay.
Would we have that before the 15th or?
Probably, I think I can probably get that.
I'm just gonna add, it wasn't too many years ago that, social media was just a flash in the pan and didn't
Right.
exist, and now that's included in in the plan, and, so as, and I think probably, smoke signals are no longer included in the plan.
So they've updated that.
Telegraph.
So I've been talking about this since November, and at not just community development meetings, not just,
Oh, yeah, but what I mean is that every year I think it's good to assess, how are we doing? And I'm wondering how the city does that with outreach, with a changing city and demographics and people coming and going. And as just a comment, looking at this, just to be interesting to see, from year to year. Hi there, welcome. So I guess that's my question. I'm good. I'll just pose it.
Okay.
I think that Rashida was asking also why, when is the deadline that HUD has for Kingston to submit this?
So the absolute drop dead deadline is August 16th. However, that falls more than a month and a half into the start of of our fiscal year for our CDBG funds. So if we wait until that late to submit it, and then have to wait for HUD's approval of it, and if we have to make any, then it's way far into the funding year.
Right.
And so we're holding up our access to the funds and also our potential sub-recipients access to those funds.
And it's June or July 1st, fiscal year starts?
July 1.
July 1. Great. So our needs assessment?
Oh, I got that email this afternoon, so I'll look at it tomorrow.
Housing needs summary tables. So Brenda, how is this data collected?
It's census data. It's HUD CPD maps and census data, and it's not reflective of what's here on the ground, but it's what we're allowed to use.
So the census changes every 10 years?
Yeah, and
So-
they do like American Community Survey does an annual estimation, so that changes every
Okay.
year. We use that, but
Okay.
it's still not entirely accurate with what's here on the ground.
Okay. How accurate do you find it? I mean, what's the range of
Honestly,
discretion?
so there's a lot of anecdotal information floating around lately, and there's a lot of focus on housing and needs and so on. So I don't have an answer to that right now. We are working on getting into contract with probably Pattern for Progress to supplement their UAA, their Urban Action Agenda work for the city, to ask them to do a housing needs analysis.
Okay.
So we'll have more local, real data to work with, not county, not tri-county, but city data.
Okay, great.
And they will accept that.
HUD will not accept that. That's for our local information for you know, informing other initiatives. This is really, it's very structured, it's very limited, it's not a comprehensive plan. It's not looking at everything that we want to look at right now. It's what we're supposed to report to HUD in order to continue accessing these CDBG funds. It's not, it's lacking, and it's not through any lack of will with us. It's just what we're allowed, the data that we're allowed to use, and the format that we're allowed to submit this information. And, you know, just HUD, please continue to help support us.
Right.
You know.
And for now, we've had this, and then I know that currently the Common Council is working on gathering some information and feedback, and then there's the future getting maybe pattern for progress to do reports for us. What have we been using for policy? What have mayors referenced and the Common Council referenced aside from this? Has this been so far the main document when deciding housing policy?
No, I mean, there was that tri-county needs assessment, and there, I don't know off the top of my head right now what the mayor and the council used to make their decisions, but this is not the only thing, no.
Thank you.
Because we are aware of its deficiencies.
All right. Any other questions there? Okay. Are any populations, household types more affected than others by these problems? Describe the characteristics and needs of low-income individuals and families with children, especially extremely low income, who are currently housed but are at imminent risk of either residing in shelters or becoming unsheltered. Also discuss the needs of formerly homeless families and individuals who are receiving rapid rehousing assistance and are nearing the termination of that assistance. If a jurisdiction provides estimates of the at-risk population, it should also include a description of the operational definition of the at-risk group and the methodology used to generate the estimates. Specify particular housing characteristics that have been linked with instability and an increased risk of homelessness. Any questions there?
Jennifer, this kind of speaks to what you're, a little bit to what you were talking about earlier. And it's not our population size, it's the need for the population that's aging in place and becoming poor. More individuals and families are receiving public assistance at a greater share of their income, and the arts and creative economy community, a growing and influential sector of the economy, has pushed for the need to create more affordable work housing units. We could probably put more there.
Okay, so what page are you reading from?
This is 32.
Page 32.
You're reading what Rebecca's showing?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I could certainly read that and offer some language.
Please.
But the other question I had was more kind of big picture surrounding this. Are you able, as a part of this plan, to make recommendations about other remedies besides the ones that are available to you through the HUD programs? So for example, if short-term rental is a problem, or because it's, even though we're working on zoning now, it's gonna take a couple of years to get that done. Can you make recommendations of remedies such as local laws that might address short-term housing? Or,
Yeah. Yes.
or ways of cracking down on Section 8 violations?
Yes, and there's also a place to talk about leveraging other funding to do that stuff as well.
Okay.
So my question for this section is, I think it really directly relates to the stakeholder analysis, and then also the input that you gather from stakeholders, because if there is a discussion about the housing needs, particularly, that would come out in those kinds of meetings. And so that's why I guess having a diverse and full stakeholder analysis and meeting with stakeholders would maybe benefit the section a little bit.
I think there are some more people that we could certainly speak to, but I think, as I said, I don't know if you had walked in just after that, but we've done a better job this year than we have ever have before in speaking with organizations that provide support to those residents at risk of homelessness or experiencing homelessness.
Yeah, and I think some organizations, I guess we can talk to you about some other organizations
Sure.
to talk to.
Sure. So Kingston Tenants Union and Workers Justice Center and
Probably Citizen Action.
yeah, and Rise Up Kingston, those were all, there was outreach done to all of them by the consultant.
No, there wasn't, not to the Kingston Tenants Union.
Okay, they were on the list, so if they did not reach out to you guys, then okay. So we'll certainly follow up with that. Shouldn't say they, you were on the list.
Okay, can we move on? Disproportionately greater need housing problems. Assess the need of any racial or ethnic group that is disproportionately greater need in comparison to the needs of that category of need as a whole. There's the introduction. Numbers. And I just want to remind everybody to please feel comfortable at any time, raise your hand, ask questions, point things out. Thank you.
And this is the HUD standard data, the collection that influences this.
Yes. That's the CHAS data that they mentioned above that.
So is that basically already filled in then? By
It's-
HUD?
No, the consultant or staff have to pull that information and plug the numbers in, but the numbers are that database.
Okay.
This morning I was in a group in Newburgh, not talking about this, but it was observed that a significant proportion of the homeless youth are LGBT youth, and I noticed that that's not a category counted here.
Right.
Just alerting you to that
Okay.
concern. Kind of significant.
Yeah.
It's a unique population that is significantly undercounted, underrepresented,
And-
not considered, and usually underserved.
And that's available for this data? Or
No, it's
no,
not.
yeah,
It's-
okay.
I'm pointing it out, and
Yeah.
it's absolutely a data set that isn't captured.
I think that's a great comment to add in the comment section, even if it's not addressed by census data, right?
Yes. Yes.
And I think the LBGDQ Center actually collects information on that, don't they? Todd?
I believe they informally do. I wouldn't call it anything that amounts to really data collection, but they certainly have, they certainly capture information about it and attempt to assist.
And there are advocacy groups that do collect a lot of those data, maybe on
Yeah, so
a
there's
more
actually a
general.
good study done in Westchester, but again, it wasn't done.
Okay.
It's not federal data.
But it sounds like that although we rely on HUD and federal
Right,
info.
they're gonna report on their data,
But we can
certainly
also
put it
do-
into the narrative.
Right.
You know, if the new census coming up will attempt to collect anything like that?
I know there was an initiative about that. I don't know where it landed. My impression is that it landed that gay people don't count, is my impression, unless I'm wrong about that. Isn't that where it landed?
No, so I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So the discussion piece,
So we won't be paying our taxes either.
for households that
You have to
are
look at the upside.
That's the upside.
30% of the AMI, white households represent a lower percentage of households with one or more housing problems than the white percentage of the total population, 73%. Black households compose approximately the same percentage of households with one or more housing problems, and of the total population, 15%. Hispanic residents represent approximately 14% of the city's population, but account for 10% of the households with housing problems within this income range.
Who's the other 10%?
Population would account for 10% of the household.
Right, it's not a good thing.
65, 15, 10.
Are we missing 10%?
And they can't all be lower than or equal to their
Who's higher?
share in the